Well, hi there, 7th grade. Happy Friday. You made it to the end of week 8 of distance learning. You've been doing great, 7th grade. I've been really impressed with the large majority of you consistently working. Keep it up. Thank you. Today we're going to wrap up the War of 1812 and see what the effects of the war were. Things that lead towards the end of the war. One, in a battle near the border with Canada, Tecumseh is killed in battle. And without the leadership of Tecumseh, the Confederation starts to fall apart. And we're going to see that the real force of the Native American resistance, which had been a major factor in the first 2 years of the war, really starts to dissipate, and that allows the Americans to start turning their attentions on the British. The British and the Americans start negotiating an end to the war, but hostilities are still going on while these negotiations are happening. And the final major battle of the war happens in New Orleans, or as we say in New Jersey, New Orleans, or as they say, Nolans, or NOLA. Andrew Jackson, who's now a major general, not just a general, major general. He is in command of a large force. And remember that New Orleans is, the most important port in America at this point, because it's at the mouth of the Mississippi River, which is used to carry goods in and out of the heart of the United States. And he is outnumbered by the British, but Jackson is a really smart dude. He's nicknamed Old Hickory because he's known as being as tough as a hickory stick. And if you ever try to snap a hickory stick, good luck. They are really, really strong. And he is just a strong-headed, tough, mean person. But he's real smart and he's real cunning. It's a nice thing that he was on our side. He tricks the British into marching into a giant trench that was a canal. And they're basically trapped in this. They don't have ladders, or very few ladders, to get out of this trench. And Jackson's forces are all above them, and they just pummel them. Multiple generals of the British and colonels of the British. They lose a ton of officers. The whole battle takes about 30 minutes. The Americans lose about a dozen, whereas the British lose hundreds, including officers. This might be the most lopsided win in American history, next to the Battle of Trenton. It's a huge victory in the war, huge victory for Americans, and it makes Andrew Jackson into a national hero. He was already pretty popular, getting promoted, so on and so forth. And now he becomes this almost figure of folklore in American culture. And he'll propel it into a very successful political career. We'll talk more about that in future units. But here's the funny part about this very lopsided battle and win for the Americans. The war was over. That's right, the war was over. Now, they didn't realize the war was over, but the Treaty of Ghent was signed a few days prior and ended the war. Of course, that is in Europe where it was signed, so the American forces and the British forces didn't get, told, hey, the war's actually over, and they went and battled each other anyway. So the best and biggest victory of the Americans in the War of 1812 took place after the War of 1812. There's Old Hickory at the Battle of New Orleans. I always found this funny. Like, he stopped and posed in the middle of the battle. You can see the soldiers shooting down at the British forces. Yeah. Oh, wait. Let me stop. Take a selfie. Anyway, with the Treaty of Ghent that ends the war, all that fighting, the multiple years of war, here's what happens. Nothing. Nothing's resolved. And essentially, the war was considered a draw. The British wanted to stop fighting so they could concentrate on wiping out Napoleon, which they'll do. The Americans want to stop fighting because they can't afford to keep on fighting. They stood up to the British, which was more than a lot of people thought the Americans would be able to do. And they fought them to a draw. So both sides basically agree, hey, let's stop fighting. All the things that we went to war about, getting more territory, nope, no territory exchanged. Stopping impressment of American sailors, no agreement on impressment. Getting the British not to support the natives in the West whose lands we're trying to take. Nope. Nothing changes. It's a draw. But they don't get anything from us. They don't seize any of the territory that they lost in the War of Independence. They get nothing from us, and we get nothing from them. Draw. But there is a silver lining to that, and that is that domestically, Americans after the war feel like a surge in patriotism, feel a surge in pride that, hey, like, we went against the baddest country in the world a second time. And when our backs were against the wall, even when they burned our capital city, we didn't give up. We kept fighting, and we never surrendered. And that's there's something to be said with that. You know, you get into a ring with the champ and hold your own. You got to feel good about that. And the champ didn't beat you. No, you didn't beat the champ, but the champ didn't beat you. And this gives the United States a lot more legitimacy with the other countries of the world, that their military was able to stand up. A lot of people have been watching the U.S. since the War of Independence as the new kid on the block. All right, is this country going to fold? Is it going to fail? People thinking it. And the War of Independence the War of 1812 solidifies that, hey, we're here and we're staying. We're real. Also, another effect is that the U.S. starts growing a lot of its own industries. We can no longer rely on the British, and the Americans started building a lot of factories, in particular in the North. And this is going to make a big divide between the North and South because they're going to become really dependent in the North on this industrial labor, and they're going to want to keep that money coming, so they're going to start pushing for tariffs after the war is over to make it harder for Americans to buy foreign goods, which then is going to mean that our goods, especially our farm goods, are going to get taxed, and that upsets the South. And we're going to see that that's going to lead to a lot of problems. But for a while, people for the most part get along. Good 8 years. There's not as much partisan bickering and fighting. People work together, and it's called the era of good feelings. Oh. So, my question for you is, knowing that the War of 1812 resulted in a war with the power of hindsight, that nothing was resolved, yet Americans after the war felt good about themselves, and it led to this era of good feelings. Was it worth it for Americans to get into the war to begin with? If you could go back in time and make the decision for them, was it right? Was it wrong? Somebody upstairs just dropped something. Wonder if that got picked up on the microphone. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. I miss all of you. Bye-bye.